Why was Invader ZIM cancelled? Now, I know this has been answered. I know there are several questions corresponding to it. But, truth to be told, most of those reasons are filthy lies! And I want to explain why. Okay, to start off, I want to talk about the first, the most popular, and most believed answer to why Invader ZIM was cancelled. And that is Bloody Gur. Now, the reason why Bloody Gur doesn't work is it would have to be really significant to get ZIM cancelled. People have to be bothered by it. Because for something to destroy a show, it has to be something really big. And is Bloody Gur that big? Now, when Invader ZIM was broadcasting episodes, did you ever see Bloody Gur? Probably not. You can't see Bloody Gur unless you have the DVDs, which were released by Media Blasters in 2004. Invader ZIM was cancelled in 2001. And I never heard of Bloody Gur back then. Not until the DVDs. Not until way later. So why would Nickelodeon cancel ZIM for such a small reason? I highly doubt they even noticed Bloody Gur back then. He's only seen for a split second in several episodes, and most of the time, he blends in with the background, he's really small, and you only see him for a split second. The only episode he's clear in is Mortos the Soul Stealer, where he's seen before Dib pops up in the opening when the tentacles fly out of ZIM house. Yeah. So, Bloody Gur, I don't think it really was a problem, because was anybody bothered by it? Was it really getting on anyone's nerve? Was it scaring anybody? No. It was a thing you couldn't even see. So why the hell would that make ZIM kick the can? Second reason, the show was too dark for children. The content was just really not in that league for Nickelodeon shows. Man, this is a big one. Now, at the time, what kind of shows were on? Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Ren and Stimpy, The Ripping Friends, Dragon Ball Z. All dark shows. And a good amount of those shows have more horrific content than Invader ZIM. Goosebumps. That scared kids. Did Invader ZIM really scare that many kids? No. The only time people complained about ZIM was in the final episode, when the evil Santa came out, you know. That's the only thing that really made a problem with ZIM. But compared to Ren and Stimpy, ZIM isn't that dark. I mean, Ren and Stimpy had more adult humor than ZIM did. ZIM was childish. You know, it made kids laugh as well as adults. Now, for the content in it, it isn't that violent, really. You know, the most violent thing is Keith's getting his eyes ripped out. I would say that's debatably the worst thing. Now, let's compare that to Dragon Ball Z. Now, this was edited for TV, but it still showed an amount of deaths in the series, such as, well, heads getting crushed, chests getting ripped open, blood, Krillin explodes. Yeah, so all that violent content compared to ZIM is nothing. This is like My Little Pony compared to Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, I don't want to say ZIM's bad, but really, this has way more adult content than ZIM. And this is even airing on Nickelodeon right now. So, no. It was a style of cartoons back then. Dark cartoons were the thing. That's what kids enjoyed. As well as adults. I mean, around the time when those kind of cartoons were in style, South Park came out. So, really, it's what Nickelodeon wanted back then. It's what TV was. So what's humor was. Humor was dark back then. So Invader ZIM was right at home. So that's not really why ZIM was cancelled. So then, why was it really cancelled? Well, when Invader ZIM was in production, a lot of the scripts were changed. Nickelodeon would patrol Jonah Vasquez and the writing crew to see what was good for kids and what was not. Again, cancelling out ZIM being too dark. Because Nickelodeon can control if it's too dark. If something's bad, they can say, oh, rewrite this, take this out, cut that. They had control. They had the power. And that's why Jonah Vasquez can't bring the show back, because it's Nickelodeon's show. Jonah Vasquez didn't feel like Invader ZIM was his show. And around that time before ZIM was cancelled, several episodes were in production, like The Return of Keith, Mopiness of Doom, and a few others. And around that time, ZIM's humor was kind of transferring from this dark, witty show to this childish, stupid show with screaming and yelling. Not that Zim already had that, but it was more so significant now than before. And you know why? Because dark shows were dying at the time. SpongeBob came out, and that's what people watched the most. That's what people liked. The silly, stupid humor. So SpongeBob kind of changed things. It kind of canceled out all those shows we had before, Ren and Stimpy. All those died. And it started shows like Fairly Odd Parents, The Mighty Bee, Fanboy and Chum Chum. So Zim had to transfer from dark, and that dark humor, to more of the childish stuff. So Jonah Vasquez felt Invader ZIM was not his show anymore, and it just wasn't working. So he had to cancel it. Yeah, Jonah Vasquez canceled Invader ZIM himself because it just wasn't working. But that's not the only reason. Another reason was, Invader ZIM was a highly over-budget cartoon. And I'll state several reasons why. One is the animation. Now, Invader ZIM used new styles of animation every 10 or so episodes. They tried new styles of drawing the characters, they brought in new animators, new styles of color, new shading, new shadows. So, it was really a lot of money to try this new style of animation. And another reason is the 3D. Now, back then, 3D was a lot of money to use on cartoons. Jimmy Neutron was out at the time, but that was a 3D show. But to use 3D in a 2D show costs a lot of money. And that NanoZim episode with the 3D with the ships inside Dib's body, that was a lot of first season budget gone. So animation was a big problem. Another one was music. Pretty much every Zim episode had several new pieces of techno and electronic. Invader Zim barely used music again in the series. They never reused music. They never reused animation either, that's another thing. It was always new animation per episode. Never reused a split second of new animation. And so a lot of money went towards Kevin Manthe for the music, to compose several or 10 pieces of music for each episode, usually about a minute to 4 minutes long, and new animation. So it was really over budget. More money was being used each episode than it should have. And well, people were going broke. By the second season, about 3/4 of the crew left. There was only several animators, and it really was just the people who were start out with the pilot episode, instead of a whole crew of animators and stuff. So a lot of the crew left. It was over budget. They couldn't keep it on. They were really struggling to keep Zim on the air. They could have quit before the second season even started. So Invader Zim did stay a little longer than it could have, or should have. So, it wasn't Nickelodeon. They had nothing to do with it. They liked Zim. Jonah Vasquez had to, because Invader Zim just wasn't working out. I'm not blaming him. I have sympathy for the guy, because I would have done the same thing. Because watching those episodes that weren't finished, it really doesn't feel like Zim anymore. To me. Maybe you have a different opinion. That's mine. But nowadays, Nickelodeon is the problem. To an extent. There's this Facebook group called Operation Head Pigeons, and they are trying to get Zim back with raids towards Nickelodeon. They have people like Richard Horvitz, voice of Zim, Andy Berman, voice of Dib, and Ricky Simons, voice of Gur. Even Jonah Vasquez is with them, because he feels like he wants Zim back. He thinks it's a cool idea to, have the characters do new things, so he would like to do new Zim stuff. But Nickelodeon won't allow it. I mean, they say things like, oh, if this new Zim DVD sells a lot of copies, we'll greenlight Zim for another season or two. They won't. But they do have a good reason. Again, with the SpongeBob thing, it changed things, it's silly humor. Invader Zim wouldn't fit in with the cartoons nowadays. It would be a black sheep. It's not what kids are used to watching, and it wouldn't fit in. I mean, if Zim went back in the air, who'd watch it? Zim fans. So for it to have new episodes on TV, it wouldn't get a good number of viewers. I mean, it does good on Nicktoons because those are all the old shows people grew up with. But new shows on Nickelodeon, Zim wouldn't fit in. If it was a straight-to-DVD release, oh, there's an idea, Nickelodeon, it would work. Because then, it would sell a lot of copies, the Zim fans would buy it, it would work out for everyone. Nickelodeon would get their money, and we would get our Zim. And that's all I have to talk about.